everybody. Thank you guys for joining us as usual. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. The phone lines are going to open at 2:45 p.m. Central. It's 1-855-236-3228. We're going to try and keep everybody 30 to 50 seconds so we can get as many people in as possible, get some new people as well who I know have wanted to call in and talk because it's crazy time of year. We got a jam-packed show. Timmy B is going to join us. Guys, first, I do want to say a couple things. One, college basketball season is upon us. There's already been some fantastic games. The SEC has looked pretty good early. Auburn went and beat Houston on the road. Kentucky took down Cooper Flag and Duke in an absolute baller of a game.
Quickly, I want to ask you these questions. Does Calipari win that game last night?
I've seen a lot of people put that on social media. With the way the momentum was going for Kentucky and kind of the way that their teams have been in the past, I don't think so. Kentucky last night, to me, and not that they didn't play hard under Cal, but and I know they haven't played a lot together, the toughness level of that team, to get down the way they did early, keep fighting back, be down at halftime, continue to fight back, and then come through in the clutch moment at the end. I think Mark Pope's got something cooking over there. I was excited to see it.
Too soon.
It's too soon. I mean, but again,
not even to Thanksgiving. We should have the Christmas lights and the college basketball both in the same sort of realm post Thanksgiving.
Very true. I do want to say I hit a 20-leg parlay last night.
20
leg. I call it. I've got a new method when it comes to betting basketball. I call it favorite farming. It's where you pick a lot of the favorites money line, all right, and you basically have to really outside of that hit 3 to 4 bets. So win like a 3 to 4 leg parlay, but you juice it with the other ones. So for example, just quickly to go through this, a 20-pick parlay, the odds are plus 2,271. So if you bet $10, you'd win $240. If you bet $50, you'd win $1,100. So the teams I took money line, Kansas, Florida State, South Carolina, Syracuse, Clemson, Northwestern, Georgia Tech, Baylor, TCU, Ole Miss, New Mexico, Colorado State, Stanford, Utah, Iowa, Temple, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and High Point. Then I took Kentucky plus 5.5, and I took Texas minus 27.5, and all of those hit. So it's, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and you got a chance to hit it outside of just taking like 20 different spreads, which you're not.
I thought that was Crain's Pythagorean theorem.
No, the Crain-Pythagorean theorem is different, and it's really just for football. You can use it for basketball, but the Crain-Pythagorean theorem takes 3 different elements, and puts them together, right? You take the favorites on the money line. All right, you also get some underdogs, which you buy them up, okay, and then you pick one big upset you think is going to happen. Okay. Those are the criteria. That's a different animal, but I appreciate you remembering that.
Thank you.
And it's still alive, all right, and it still works pretty decent.
Good.
Tennessee, maybe without quarterback Nico Iamaleava against Georgia. We're going to give you an update. Oregon leads the college football playoff rankings for a second straight week, and that's about the only thing they got right. And Tim Brando joins us to preview the top matchups heading into Week 12 and react to the playoff reveal. I'm Jake Crain. It's Wednesday with an I, and it's a mindset here at Crain & Company. It seems the biggest question heading into this weekend's mega matchup between Tennessee and Georgia is whether or not Nico Iamaleava, nailed it, is going to be able to play or not. He's been in concussion protocol, and there are people claiming that he will and some claiming that he won't. We have the clips we're going to show you here shortly. Josh Heupel has said he's practiced and is hinting that he should be fine. But Heupel isn't going to tell you or me whether he's going to play or not because Josh is smart. He wants you to have to prepare for both. It was already going to be tough sledding for a Tennessee offense that hasn't been great at times this season, particularly in the first half. A lot of games they've struggled to even score points. So if Nico doesn't play and Gaston Moore is the quarterback, the task goes from tough to monumental when it comes to moving the ball and scoring points. Now, I'm very fortunate, like all of us up here, to know people in spots that can give us a heads up on things like this and the way that it's looking. And last night, I had a source decently close to the program tell me he is on track to play barring any setbacks. And for Tennessee's sake, and for really everybody in college football that just wants to see a good-ass game this weekend, I hope that he's right. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback. Blaine Crain, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, knows a little about concussions. Had a couple of his own. That's why you don't play with the mouthpiece.
I know,
pay the price.
Reed's too good.
I don't spell good.
That's your job.
Yeah, it's amazing. And look how far he's come.
I know.
Wow, it's amazing. Our own DEI hire. How about that? Cone, when you look at injuries, and now we have availability reports, and, some coaches go about it a different way than others, and there's gamesmanship that comes into this. But since it is a concussion, concussion protocol, and obviously you want to take care of the student-athlete's health first, what odds do you put on Nico playing this weekend? Because I think they're pretty high according to the person that I know.
Yeah, I don't have any inside sources, but I'd say 95%. How about that? Do we have the video of Bear? I think this is clip 1. Can we play that quickly, just to give people some context here?
And that being said, I don't know what you have heard about Nico Iamaleava playing this week. I have heard that it was a bad concussion, and people that I've spoken to do not believe that he is going to play. We'll see what happens. Josh Heupel certainly offered a different tune, as you would expect him to do early in the week, to probably just have Georgia prepare as if Nico were going to play.
Sure, and that makes sense. I mean, I don't know Bear personally. I have a really hard time believing the guy is just making something up, though, for clickbait. Because some of the Tennessee fans, the way they responded to him, it was just absolutely disgusting. But it will be a bad look, I think, for Bear if he comes out and says that, and Nico not only plays, but he's fully healthy and he looks great, right? I think that obviously you use the phrase, what'd you say, the task for Tennessee will go from tough to monumental if Nico doesn't play against Georgia. I think that's right. I don't think the task goes from tough to impossible, though, for Tennessee to win. I know a lot of people are saying that. Look, Gaston Moore from Hilton Head High School, by the way, let me give Hilton Head High School a shout out. If you are Gaston Moore and you are tasked with filling in for Nico and you have to go on the road and beat the Georgia Bulldogs, there's a couple things I think you would want. First off, how about, can I have a defense that hasn't given up 20 points this season? Check. You'll go into the game with that. Can I have one of the best running backs in the league, Dylan Sampson? You go into the game with that. And then 3, you'd be playing a Georgia team that's dealing with their own turnovers, right? Carson Beck hasn't taken care of the ball. Georgia doesn't look like world beaters on either side of the football, really, aside from that first half in the Texas game. So monumental task if Nico doesn't play, but not impossible.
I think everything you said was right. I do want to go back, Blaine, and obviously want to get what you think about it. I want to talk to you about kind of concussions and how there can be setbacks because those things kind of ebb and flow when it comes to light, and different people respond in different ways. But the Chris Felica thing, I don't think, I've never seen him lie or anything like that. I don't think he's a liar. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I've been told the opposite of what he was told. If he had gone on a national just college football show and said that, or even if he had gone on a Tennessee show and said that, I would be more inclined to believe that he is concrete and right in what he is saying. The fact that you went and did it on a Georgia show, to me, knowing how many clicks that would generate, how many views that would generate, and how that fan base would take that, and they should, that's part of it. I don't think you should take all the empirical evidence from that. I'm a little skeptical of it because I know they got a new podcast that they're trying to push and stuff like that, which it makes sense to me. The second thing that you said, you're 100% right in that it's not impossible, not just because Tennessee is what Tennessee is this year, but because Georgia is who they are this year. You mentioned the turnovers. You mentioned the lack of ability to create explosive plays when you're not going up-tempo on offense. That obviously bodes well in Tennessee's favor. But when I look at it, you already had a narrow path, a more narrow path than Georgia to win this game if you're Tennessee, with Nico playing. Without Nico playing on the road, I think that path even becomes more narrow. So I think it went, for example, just to use one aspect, if you had Nico, I think you could have still won the game if Carson Beck didn't turn the ball over, right, 1 time or 2 times. But with Gaston, I think now not only does Carson Beck have to turn the ball over, he has to turn the ball over in very beneficial field position and or a pick six, a strip sack fumble that results in points. But to Cone's point, to what Cone was saying, he's not wrong at all. It's not impossible, but you want to have your guy on the road.
100%. And where is this game?
At Georgia.
This game is at Georgia. And if I'm Georgia, right, and Nico's not playing, what a great opportunity for this defense to become who they're supposed to be. If I'm Kirby Smart and Nico's not playing in this game, I am pinning my ears back and going to get this kid as much as I can. If there's ever a time to let the dogs eat, that will be this. Then you can flip it to the other side, and it's only going to help your offense. So as good as Tennessee's defense is, and they're one, if not the best in the nation, you're on that field for so long, and you see that other side of the ball not be able to get it done, it almost demoralizes you a little bit on defense. But now if Nico does play, it's a little bit of a different game here, right? The extension of plays, his legs, what he can do in the running game. And you can always lean back, if you're Tennessee, to a Sampson, right? But how much can you do that if Nico doesn't play? Because if I'm Georgia, which Kirby Smart's a great coach, smart guy, obviously he knows what he's doing, what are you afraid of now? What are you afraid of if you're Georgia about this offense? I know one guy, and that's Dylan Sampson. So if I'm stopping anybody, it's going to be him. And what an opportunity for Georgia after this, the last playoff bracket came out. They're sitting a little bit on the outside to go and get this win, especially if Nico's not at quarterback.
There's a couple things you said that I agree with. There's something that I'm not with you. I think the natural inclination for most people, and it's funny, I think most offensive people say this because they, you think, hey, you see blood in the water, you send all the sharks there at once. I think if Gaston Moore plays, it really keeps you from having to sit here and send everybody and take all these risks. Now, I'm not saying you don't load the box. You obviously match personnel for personnel, but now I know you're pigeonholed into running it. I get that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to slant and I'm not going to stunt and do some things, but I'm going to I'm going to do exactly what you saw Bama do against Nussmeier. I'm going to show you the same thing pre-snap, and I'm going to give you 4 different things after the snap. See, I don't think you go after a new, because what would scare me as a defensive coordinator is, all right, so we're just going to blitz everybody. You just made it a lot easier for a Tennessee wide receiver to get open and this guy to make his decision when the ball snapped and then just throw one up and hit a home run.
And get some confidence.
That's exactly right. I watched Ohio State lose to Michigan because of that. I'm not saying you don't heat him up, but you're seeing a lot now, and it's been popular, and I've been talking about this for 40 years. You're seeing those double mugs pre-snap, and then it can blossom into 4 different things. If I'm Georgia, all right, and I see Gaston Moore's out there, I know that Josh isn't going to give him the whole menu. So from a what do we got to do in coverage standpoint, yeah, we're going to prepare for everything, but I know I'm not going to see as much, so you can be more aggressive in the back end through coverage. There's ways to be really aggressive, running trap coverage. They're going to try and get him early throwing the ball. Easy throws. There'd be a ton of cover 6. I'd run a ton of cover 2 in this game. I would show pressure and not bring it, because a new quarterback, to me, it isn't just he might struggle handling pressure. It's, I think I can confuse him easier.
Yeah.
I think I can take advantage of him mentally.
Yeah, I'm not saying you sit back here and you send 9 guys every play, right? But I'm saying you don't have to get as exotic, right? You don't have to reach into the bag that much to confuse him. You'd have to do a lot more to trick Nico than you're going to have to do with this guy.
No,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you blitz 90%.
No, I was just clarifying.
Yeah,
I was
for
telling
sure. I'm saying you don't have to do as much you don't have to think as much. Right? You have to think a lot more, especially from a pass rushing standpoint, if Nico's out on that field. But now you can just go play football. And Georgia's best, especially on defense, when they're not thinking and they let their athletes go get it. And I think if you're Kirby Smart, you're going to be a lot more, I wouldn't say relaxed, but you don't have to get as creative to win this football.
Yeah. David, can I ask you this? Because obviously you played the position, you played quarterback at the highest level you can play in college. You've taken beatings. You've taken off and gotten hit. I'm sure you've had a concussion or 2. I think there's another side of this that people aren't saying. Let's say Nico is good to go. Let's say the guy I talked to last night is right. How much, knowing that a loss doesn't eliminate you from the playoffs? Alabama ran Jalen Milroe like they did because if they lost, it was over. There was nothing past this. For Tennessee, yeah, you want to win this game. You want to control your own destiny. But if you're coming out of concussion protocol, how much do you as a play caller, if you're Josh Heupel, right, talking to Nico, and how much are you if you're Nico? Like, if I'm Georgia's defense, it may help me out a little bit knowing you run zone read, you probably aren't keeping it. If you're Nico, are you going to be quicker to throw the ball away instead of extend the play and create? If it's 3rd down and 6, and you take off if nobody's there if you're Nico, and you're getting close to the first down marker, are you going to slide where they got to move it back and you don't get the first down? Or are you going to go head first and dive to go get that first down? So just being beat up, if you're a running quarterback, if you're a pro-style guy in there, it's not going to change. Kirk Cousins, nobody's worried about him taking off and scrambling and running. it's a different element. But with Nico and his ability to run, especially in the red zone cone,
that's a great
it changes
point.
Your game plan.
A great point that you brought up, and I have several thoughts. First of all, just the context of this football game. You need to go into this game thinking we have to win. This whole one loss and can't afford another loss, it may end up being true, but you need to go on the road and beat Georgia. You need this win. I think Nico gives you the best shot to do that. If he can play and he looks like he's mostly healthy, then you need to play him. And then that's where Josh Heupel really needs to know his guy, because this is where I thought you were going with the question. What if he's coming out of concussion protocol, but cognitively a lot of weird things can happen? And what if he's only 75% and he's past his protocol, right? Like he's been cleared to play, but maybe throughout the first quarter or early into the second quarter, you realize like he's not giving you the best chance to win because he's still not fully recovered from that. That's where Josh Heupel needs to know his guy and say, hey, maybe we do have to put in the backup and play a different style of football to win this game. In the context of the season, I think is kind of what you were asking towards the end there. At what point do you say, maybe, we just go without Nico, let him get fully healthy because we're going to need to win all the games after this? That's a little bit more interesting situation that gets more prevalent because of what the committee did to Florida State last year, saying, hey, I know this isn't like an ACL or a shoulder situation. Concussions usually you can come out of in the coming weeks, but still, hey, we're going to need our quarterback throughout the rest of the season so we don't get penalized for our star player being down.
If he's not 100%, do you even send him out there? Well, no, it's really 100%.
Well, you got to know the threshold.
What is the protocol? What's the concussion protocol right now for college football?
So typically the way it works is, and the way it worked, when I was in it was a week. Mm-hmm. From the minute it happened, it was a week, and you go through tests every day, and you see how you progress through the tests. If you're Georgia, and this may sound dirty to other people, there's two things that affect people with concussions the most: noise and light. If I am Georgia and Nico is playing, those strobe lights and all those things that go off when you score a touchdown in the end zone, I may just be messing with the light. I'm serious. I'm dead ass serious. I may be messing with the lights early in that game. Even on, I know there's certain times you can do it, certain times you can't, just like there's certain times the band can play, certain times the band can't. But then also the noise. If I'm a Georgia fan, it's going to be loud as hell in there. I don't think you got to convince them to be loud. But the louder it gets, how does that affect him coming out? Because it's not like you're just walking into Kroger and going to get some milk and you're like, God, it's right in Kroger. It's you got these LED lights and these things that flash, and all this crowd noise. So there's a lot that goes into it that people don't see on the surface.
Yeah. It's a forever headache.
Yeah, it is.
And if I'm Georgia, every play, I don't care if he has the ball or not, I'm reaching out and I'm touching you.
Yeah.
I'm bumping you.
I need you to know.
Whatever I can get away with just to shake that brain up a little bit, to make it a little bit more irritating for you to do what you do best, that's what I do as a defensive caller. Even if you can't get to him. Boom, little push. Boom, little nudge. Those little things add up in a long football game.
Yeah, they do. I'm going to get to the chat. Then I'm going to get to this playoff review.
All right, Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with Rocky Top Tom. Says UT can win without Nico by the same means as with him. Play disciplined football on offense and lights out on defense. But either way, it's going to be a long shot, knowing Vols fans don't like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter. That's kind of sounds like what you said at the beginning. I don't think that's true, or else Gaston Moore would be playing more. But I don't think it's impossible for Tennessee to win with the way this game's probably going to go either way with Gaston Moore in there. But it does make it harder.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to the Vol. Steve, what's up, man? He says, does Josh Heupel change up his game plan walking into this football game if Nico's not 100% healthy?
That's what we just talked about. I think you do. I just wonder if Georgia is going to test the waters early and say, listen, Nico's out there playing and they run a zone read. Yeah, we can have a guy kind of off to the quarterback, but let's lean running back. Mm-hmm. Let's guess run, right? Let's guess short pass. Because another thing, when do most sacks happen? All right, it's not just guys blitzing and getting there. There are coverage sacks. So how many short throws are Tennessee going to try and do to get the ball out of his hand to avoid taking hits? So there's a lot of things that go in it that can alter your game plan, but defensively, preemptively, are you going to go in there and say, listen, boy's been in concussion protocol. We know what we would do if that happened, right? So let's take advantage of what we think they're going to do.
I think Josh Heupel's game plan changes more schematically than Kirby Smart's game plan does for some of the same reasons you mentioned. I mean, the reality of the situation is Nico has had his own struggles, right, since the Kentucky game. So if you're going to light the backup up, you are probably going to go light Nico up and play that same sort of defense. Sure. Where there could be a difference is strategically in game decisions. Does Kirby go for a 4th and 1 at midfield that he otherwise would have punted because he knows the other team has a backup quarterback? The situation situations may change.
That's a great point.
Let's go to $3 donation from Dave. Appreciate it, Dave. He says, does Kirby ever make a move on Carson Beck? It feels like he's getting worse and worse.
I've been asked that a bunch of times, and I know there's been dark moments with Carson Beck and the Georgia offense, but I don't think it got darker than what happened at Alabama in the first half and the first drive in the third quarter. If he's not going to pull him after that performance, and he ended up being right, I think they're all in on Carson Beck outside of an injury, or if it's just so bad, which I don't think it'll get this way, that it is literally a detriment to the team, and you are not doing what's best for the team to put him out there. Believe me, in that Alabama game, if Kirby Smart thought a backup could go in and do better, Kirby Smart owes nobody nothing. All right? Doesn't owe anyone anything. He would have put the backup in there.
And you called for that in the first half.
Yeah.
Remember, you called for Carson Beck to be benched, and it was crazy for us to even be saying that statement, but he was playing so bad. But then in the second half, he let him back. But again, you're playing such a different type of football at that point.
And they're hoping Carson Beck wakes up this weekend and they get some momentum heading into what they hope would be the postseason. We're going to get to that in 1 second. But speaking about waking up, when you wake up, all right, if you're like me, if you're like us, you want a good cup of coffee. All right, not just one that tastes good, that's got a variety of roasts, but one that's made by people that care about the same things that you care about. And they care about you. And that's what Black Rifle Coffee does. All right, in a world of mediocrity and compromise, excellence demands intention. All right, especially when it comes to your morning ritual. I'm a routine person. I know a lot of y'all out there are. That's why Black Rifle Coffee Company takes their mission seriously, crafting explosive coffee blends that kickstart your day with uncompromising quality. And right now, during Veterans Week, from November 8th through the 14th, Black Rifle Coffees are offering an incredible 30% off their entire selection of premium roasts. Gunship, Power Llama. You got that electric Eagle Espresso?
You got it.
Right?
Perfect. Today is just black. But at the house, I got the triple E is what I've been calling it.
You're always
Triple E.
You're always a triple threat. And if you head to blackriflecoffee.com right now, you can save 30% on their entire lineup of premium roasts, patriotic gear, and American-made brewing equipment. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Taste the difference that dedication to excellence makes. All right. Speaking of dedication to excellence, well, maybe not excellence. College football playoff rankings came out last night, David.
There they are right there.
So here's, I wanted to come on here, right when these came out and be mad and, pitch a fit and these guys are dumb and they don't care or whatever. But I mean, at this point, I'm just frustrated. It's like I'm not even mad, I'm just disappointed. Because it's not just that you're logo watching, which is what you're doing when you look at it, but the methodology makes no sense, and I hope just maybe there was a chance that there would be some type of formula this year in the college football playoff rankings that would make sense. And after 2 weeks, it doesn't. If you think they're doing one thing, you can find that one thing, but then you find a contradiction. There's more contradictions in this than a blind guy judging an archery contest, like I put out on social media yesterday. So I'm to the point now, and I think I've been to that point. We've got to get sitting ADs and anybody with financial attachments to certain universities off this playoff committee. Got to get them off.
Yeah.
Got to get them off. It's not going to be perfect. I don't envy the job, but I would rather have people there that just care about the best thing for college football. And obviously these guys, there's quid pro quo that goes on. And Drew Butler, David, I thought made a great point. Why don't we make the meetings transparent?
Yeah.
Why don't we broadcast the meetings?
Yep.
Why don't we hear what they say? Because I'm going to go through the top 15 right here. You got Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, Indiana 5, BYU 6, Tennessee 7, Notre Dame 8, Miami 9, Bama 10, Ole Miss 11, Georgia 12, Boise State 13, SMU 14, and A&M 15. I am totally fine with Oregon at 1. I am fine with Ohio State at 2. Texas has no ranked wins, and they're not undefeated. Penn State has no ranked wins, and they're not undefeated. Indiana and BYU are one of the 3 teams that are undefeated at this point. I understand why they're up there. We can talk about their schedule, but they're undefeated. And Indiana's got to go play Ohio State. BYU beat SMU and beat the shit out of Kansas State. Tennessee is at 7. It is a joke to me that Texas and Penn State are in front of Tennessee. It is a joke to me that Miami is at number 9 after losing to a 5-4 Georgia Tech team, while SMU sits there at 14 with their only loss coming to an undefeated BYU team. They both beat Louisville. Georgia at 12 is a crime against humanity with their schedule. So, David, I'll let you can't trust them. It's a business. I get it. They're trying to make money. They're going to put themselves in a position to make the most money. We have got to get people that are financially tied to some of these programs off this damn committee because this is pathetic. This is pathetic. Ward Manuel, when I hear if they put Ward Manuel's brain in a dog, it'd walk backwards when I listen to this man talk. It makes no sense. Go ahead, David. I'm fed up with it, dude.
A few things. Yeah, the sitting members of academia that are on the college football playoff committee, that seems a little bit crazy to me. I don't even understand why that's controversial, not to have sitting members at institutions be on the college football playoff committee. Obviously, I don't know. I wasn't quite as angry just because I see this more as a television show, and I know we have several weeks left to go.
I just can't get over that point.
I just think there's been, people were too mad, I think, especially on ESPN yesterday. I was seeing a lot of that. I mean, I'll give you an example. We only went to, 15 there, but South Carolina at 6-3 and LSU at 6-3. You got South Carolina in front of LSU, despite LSU having the head-to-head. That seems like an easy one to me, where the committee can say, okay, I know South Carolina is playing a lot better right now than LSU is, and at the time that they lost that game, but their records are the same and you have a head-to-head. Right above it at Kansas State and Colorado, you honored that head-to-head when the record was the same. I really think if you're listening to the show today and you didn't listen yesterday, please go listen to our rankings yesterday. And maybe what we should do is the conversation that we have when we make our rankings, maybe we should just do that live. It would take a lot longer, but maybe people can see our transparent conversation that we're having when we're making our ranking. As far as Georgia at 12, I mean, that's kind of where we had them. I mean, I think we had Georgia right at 12. And the thing is, like we all love Clay Travis. I saw Clay Travis was kind of upset about some of the spots on this too. I'll just reiterate what I said yesterday. I don't know for a fact right now that a 2-loss Georgia team beats BYU. I don't know that for a fact. I have no idea.
No, yeah,
I don't know
BYU
right now. I don't know as I sit here right this second that Ole Miss destroys Indiana and beats them in a game. I don't know that. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from a perspective. It's been so chaotic. It's been such a crazy college football season. Let's finish it out. We have 3 weeks to go plus the conference championships, and I think that'll give us a better perspective.
Let us do it. Just let us do it. Let us do it. We'll pick a couple other guys. This is a clown show. It's a clown. Nothing about it makes sense to me. Make it make sense to me. Where's the criteria? Do y'all know the criteria?
There is no criteria.
It's literally just brand bias. That's all it is. What do you have? There's no reason for Texas to be at 3 and Penn State at 4. And Miami at 9. And David, I agree with you. You can't sit here and say, after you watch an Ole Miss team lose to Kentucky, that they're going to roll BYU or Indiana. The same thing with Georgia. It'd be a lot. It's to the point now where I miss the BCS. I miss the BCS because we got a bunch of guys who sit up in probably the nicest hotel, decide between champagne or caviar, just whatever they want, and they have no clue what they're doing. Nothing about this top 25 makes sense to me at all. At all.
Yeah, well, the Army disrespect is incredible to me at 24. Now, they get to play Notre Dame and kind of remedy that. I don't have a problem with Georgia being at 12 if there were other teams that were in front of them. I've got a problem with, the way that we did it. I was mostly fine with who he had in front of Georgia. Obviously, Ole Miss needs to be in front of him. They beat him. Alabama needs to be in front of him. They beat him. Miami in front of him? Man. That one's tough for me to swallow. Notre Dame. Yeah, you only got one loss. It was to Northern Illinois. To Northern Illinois. Look at Tennessee. What pisses me off about Tennessee being there is that what is the difference in Tennessee that makes them worse than Texas and Penn State? Explain that one to me. That's the one I don't get the most. Texas has not beat a ranked team. Tennessee has. They beat Bama. Penn State has not beat a ranked team. Tennessee has. Indiana undefeated, BYU undefeated. I'm fine with it, David, at this point in the season. We're going to see with Indiana. We'll see with BYU down the stretch. If there was methodology to it, or if there was a formula to it or criteria to it, and you could explain it to me, then I could understand it, and at least we could know.
A basis.
A basis to go off each week. But that's not what we have. We have a bunch of rich old dudes and middle-aged dudes that sit in a room surrounded by other rich dudes, all right, that are financially tied to certain places, and I don't think they have a clue. Either you're dirty or you're stupid. Which one is it? What's that old saying or phrase about aliens? Either we're alone in the universe or there's aliens in the universe. Both of those outcomes are equally horrifying. Either you're stupid or you're dirty. Those are the only two options.
I certainly don't want to get in the habit of defending the College Football Playoff Committee, but all of their 12 teams are the same as our 12 teams. The order's a little bit different.
Well, the order's the most important part, right?
Well, no. I mean, look, what if half of their 12 was different than our 12? Then that would certainly be a justification for being angrier than if all the teams are the same but the order's off. You know, like there are levels.
If there was a method to
all
it,
12
David.
of the teams they picked are the same as our 12, but the order's just off. Tennessee, we have Tennessee at 5, they have Tennessee at 7. Right? Tennessee's about to play a Georgia team who they have ranked at 12, and we have ranked at 12. I think we'll find out more information about both those. We had Miami at 11. They have Miami at 9. Again, like a lot of this stuff is going to play itself out.
For sure.
No, it will, and I hope to God it does.
It just even if it plays out, we're living in the now, right? That's what we're doing. Why would Texas be ranked ahead of Tennessee?
Well, we didn't do that.
No, I'm saying,
that's what, like, the order is the most important. Like, order is huge. Yeah, the 12, obviously, that get in. You've got the 5 automatic bids.
But it really is kind of not now because you have the automatic qualifier. So Texas is going to have to win the SEC for that to hold. They're going to have to win it.
Well, see, I don't agree
right now
with that,
it could hold.
What if they lose one more game and they don't play in the SEC championship and they don't have a ranked win? They put their ass at 3 with 1 loss and no ranked wins. So you're telling me, no, that's not the case. They're not going to drop.
No, they can't because the winner of the SEC is going to get the first 4 bye.
David, I get that. But what I'm saying is, what if Texas wins all the games that they have left, but they lose to Texas A&M and they're 10-2 and they're not in the SEC championship and they have no ranked wins? What if Penn State ends up with no ranked wins? So what you're telling me is you are already giving them the benefit of the doubt because now you can't say, oh, we dropped Texas and Penn State back because they have no ranked wins. That's the part that is upsetting me the most.
Let me just fill you in on something. If Texas goes 10-2, they're going to be in the college football playoff. Like, you can be angry about it, but they're going to be in it. Like, they're just going to be in the college football playoff.
Why?
That's the way that it's going to go.
Why? It shouldn't go like that.
Well, how should it go?
Well, we should have criteria about how you get into the playoff, right? So if you're Texas, you're 10-2, you have no ranked wins, your best wins against Vanderbilt, right? And I measure that up against another 10-2 that they have at 15, right? Our 16, and Kansas State walks in with 2 ranked wins, but no, that's not good enough. We got Texas at 3, so we're dropping at 12 because they are Texas. Like, I just need a formula of what you're basing stuff off of, because if they're ranked 3 now and they do drop 1, like, it tells you they're not going to drop them as far as.
But how do we know at this point in the season they don't have ranked wins? Again, we keep telling people you have to go on the strength of schedule at the end of the year.
Well, then you can't do rankings.
They beat Michigan. When they beat Michigan,
then you can't do
ranked.
rankings until the last week. Then there's no point.
Then there is no point.
But again, they're just going to drop it on. They're not going to do that.
Michigan was ranked when Texas beat them. They're not now.
Yeah, but
what if one of those teams becomes ranked that they beat earlier in the year? Like, you have to be consistent with this. Either we're going to take the strength of schedule at the very end of the year, or we're going to take it like the week that you played them.
Yes,
to me
but I mean, we're in week what, 12? We're not in week 2 or week 3 where we're just finding out that Michigan isn't great, or we're just finding out that USC isn't great. Like, that's not where we're at. I mean, we're almost.
Yeah, but the Vanderbilt win legitimately looks better now. So when you say, oh, your best win is going to be against Vanderbilt, we can't on one side say, oh, wait, Vanderbilt's actually better this year than they're supposed to be.
Than being dog shit. Like, I mean, that if your best win is Vanderbilt, that's not good enough. What I'm interested to see is what happens when it comes down. There's 2 spots left, and we ran this scenario out. There's 2 spots left, and there's 3 teams. And let's say it's Bama, let's say it's Georgia, and let's say it's Texas. Because then not having a criteria, you got a big problem.
Well, you have the head-to-head. They have a criteria. They have head-to-head, and Georgia beat Texas.
Well, David, I mean, what you just pointed out.
They don't have the same number of losses.
David, you just pointed out the head-to-head of South Carolina and LSU being wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And so that to me is where the committee, like, that to me is such an easy one. Like, why did you get that wrong?
That's why Kansas State should be in front of Colorado.
And I think maybe they're thinking because it's past 12 that it, like, somehow doesn't matter.
And that's probably 100% right. And that's, which, again, we can sit here and argue all day. What I am hoping, and I think we all hope, and because we're all passionate about this, is that somehow this just works itself out. But we went through all the scenarios. I don't see a way in which it's just cut and dry, where it's like, all right, this is obviously the 12. I mean, maybe we'll see if like Tennessee beats Georgia and A&M wins or somebody loses or Notre Dame loses to Army. I don't know. But I mean, this is the conversations we have when we're making ours together, but at least there's some sort of method to the madness of why we decide to do.
Well, and part of that, too, when you talk about Texas has no ranked wins, I mean, what we've been saying when Texas joined the SEC was, oh, it's the gauntlet. It's the week in and week out. It's not about going and playing Alabama in like a head-to-head and you beat them or winning some bowl game or something. It's about the gauntlet. Well, if you go through the gauntlet, but some of those teams aren't ranked because that conference is so tough that it's all cannibalized each other, that's going to have to count for something, too. No, if you go 11-1 in the SEC, but we cherry pick and say, well, the teams that you win 11-1 against aren't any good, you ran the gauntlet.
Well, if they go 11-1, I'm talking about 10-2. With I think we can say there are lighter schedules and there are heavier schedules when it comes to the SEC. Texas goes 11-1. They need to be. That means they beat Texas A&M.
Nobody can say this show is SEC bias. I know that because we're here talking about a team in 3 in Texas that, in my opinion, shouldn't be there. It gets to the point where like rankings are just toxic. It's just toxic. That's
well, again, is it designed for this? Is that what it's designed for? For this?
Yeah, maybe.
Which, that in itself is kind of depressing. But it's never depressing when our friend Tim Brando joins us. Tim, it's obviously a spirited conversation in here. Just opening, what are your thoughts about what you've seen?
Oh, gentlemen, you're where I was maybe, let's see, when did they start the CFP? It was 2015. Is that when we started it? Of the BCS?
I think so. Didn't Ohio State win it?
Was 14. Mm-hmm. Ohio State won it in year 1. That's right, 14. They started it in, okay. So it was 14, and Ohio State got in, and TCU and Baylor got screwed. And then, of course, last year, Florida State got screwed because Alabama had to be in, and no one on the committee would tell us that the reason was because they couldn't take Alabama without taking Texas. Let me save you some trouble. Don't watch that crap on Tuesday nights because that's what it is. It's wasted space. And I say that with all empathy for all the gentlemen, all the talking heads that have to be on that show. They're contracted to be there. They've got to be there. But it's meaningless dribble is all it is. And you've got space to streaming. I've got space on my social media platforms. I'm really glad I don't have to do a talk show any longer, and I'm just a guest on podcasts because if I had to do my own, I probably would let myself get worked up as I have in the past. I was called on the carpet years ago when I was going after the BCS, and I made the statement on the set at CBS, but the Neanderthals that govern college football, and that was on the last show we did in the studio before we went to the SEC championship game. And I had to sit in front of Roy Kramer, the then SEC commissioner, and his lovely wife, Sarah Jo, who loved me, by the way. Sarah Jo had my back always. And she was really mad at me for calling her husband a Neanderthal. I was speaking in general terms at that time, God rest her soul. But everything that's being done right now is simply a teaser for the real screwing that comes on the last one. Okay. The real screwing that Florida State got is going to happen to at least 2 teams, maybe more, because they have no criteria. They haven't changed the rules. There are no rules.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than a beauty pageant. Boise State had a real chance. A team I just saw last week, they had a real chance at the national title in the BCS before they lost to Colin Kaepernick and Nevada after missing a field goal that could have won it in regulation. They wound up losing in overtime, and they didn't get in. Obviously, they took out Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl that year. Everybody remembers that. But that was nothing more than a consolation prize. At least with the CFP, if Boise wins out, I suspect that they will, they're going to get in. And they should get in at a higher location than 12, in my view. They're in 12 now. We could argue whether they deserve to be 2 spots higher, which is where I have them in my poll. I certainly believe Indiana is worthy of being ranked higher, even though that age-old statement, but who have they played, Tim, holds up. it does hold up. Who have they played? Who have they beaten? Well, I know this. They beat the hell out of Nebraska, and the following week, Nebraska almost beat Ohio State at the old Horseshoe Banks of the Olentangy. I give them credit for that. I give Indiana credit for the way they beat a team, drummed them, just absolutely trucked Nebraska in a game that Matt Rule thought he had a chance of winning. And then the following week, what does Nebraska do? They're a player too short of pulling off maybe one of the best upsets in college football this year. So, to me, a quality loss, it means something. I think a quality W is still one that you got to credit. And I thought that even though Nebraska is not ranked, they were a hell of a team at that time. And I still think that they're going to have a really good season. So I give Indiana credit for that. It's all in the eyes of the beholder. It's all very subjective. But what we do know for sure is that committee, which when they started this, they were going to have people outside of college football, Condoleezza Rice, Archie Manning, people that were not directly involved were going to be a part of this committee. There's been no checks and balances on who's in this committee on a regular basis. There's some old coaches that I have some faith in. Chris Alt, speaking of Nevada, being one of them. There are some coaches that can command the room a little bit at the end of the year. But even still, those coaches aren't directly involved in today's game. They're still very capable of going out and looking at a team warming up and saying, I look at those big uns and I look at those little uns and I like those big uns. So, their knowledge can be sometimes camouflaged by their own bias. The brand bias is something I've been bitching and moaning about since the beginning of time. That hasn't changed. It's only gotten worse. But I would highly advise all of you, anybody that's listening to me today, don't watch those damn Tuesday night offerings on ESPN. It's a crock of blank, and you don't need to worry with it until the end. You're gonna get pissed off enough at the end when it really matters. All this other stuff is just conversation pieces for shows that make your life better and make a few other talk shows better, but it really doesn't mean anything until we get to the end. Why they want to put this out there for everyone to see and further prove how corrupt a process this is, I have no idea. But it's sponsored, and ESPN's paying their what's off for all of this. So I guess they've got to put the show on.
Yeah, and I know we'll never get money out of politics. There's always going to be, whenever you have $1 billion industry or $1 million and multi-million-dollar industry, there's going to be a Pied Piper that gets paid at the end. But do you think there's any chance, Timmy B, in any of your, past and trying to project to the future, that if we do get to a Super League, we could get a playoff committee that is not built similarly to this one? Or is this just going to how it's going to be just forever?
Well, the bureaucracy is never going to go away completely. I mean, we're still talking about intercollegiate athletics. So, but we can at least have some set rules. We need to have, you have to accomplish this, and this to qualify and be in. Good, bad, or indifferent, if a team wins a title of a power league, no matter what their record, they still know they've done enough to get in. Some fans may have a problem with that, but at least we know what the criteria is. We know why they're there. In this format, the way it's currently structured, we have no reason to know why these teams are in. And when the lack of accountability and transparency is shown by those that will say one thing with one team and come back with another thing that runs totally opposite
contradicts it.
Of the statement, it totally contradicts itself, and no one questions them on it. Poor Reese Davis, there are no follow-ups here. You got a better chance of getting a reasonable response to a follow-up question from the Kremlin than you do this group. I mean, they won't tell you anything. Now, after the fact, because there have been some people that were on that committee that I did have relationships with, I was told, okay, listen, here's the deal on Alabama and Florida State last year. And I was told that. And I'm not going to name who it was, but I was told it. Just why couldn't they just say it?
Yeah.
Either put a microphone in the damn room or just have the spokesperson say it. Say it. You couldn't take Alabama without taking Texas. So if Georgia had won, Florida State's in. Alabama won, Texas is in. I can get that. They don't know how, from a public relations standpoint, to remove the veil of impropriety.
Yeah.
Okay. Taking this argument to the field, take this argument to the field. The Utah AD, who, by the way, made a fool out of himself, shouldn't have said what he said in an open forum like that in the aftermath of the BYU game. I completely understand why Brett Yormark handled that situation the way he did. Now, I'm glad that he also apologized and admitted that he was emotionally torn at the end of the game. But he went up there without provocation, said all the things he said. But again, we shouldn't be pushed into this situation. We don't need to have supervisors of officials in charge of assigning dates and locations for crews. We need to have a nationalized officiating body that is supervised by one guy, okay, that's a spokesperson. Now, that one guy can have several people around him. Now, I'll use the analogy from a Fox standpoint. If it were Dean Blandino is also in charge of NCAA rules and regulations, so he can implement them. Made a change this past year, as you recall, with the rule when Oregon took advantage of the rule with 12 players on the field late in the game with Ohio State. If it were going to be somebody like Dean or Mike Pereira, fine, they can have a core group of people working with them. But I want to hear one voice tell me how this could have been screwed up to the extent that it was screwed up on the field. Right now, we've got officials that are beholden to the supervisors in their own area. And we've got contracts being signed for intersectional games where the away team gets to have their officials on site most of the time. And that's crazy too. We need to remove the veil of impropriety.
No red tape, David.
It's simply accomplished. And it's something that I think Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, who are leading this group of guys that are governing our game, really good news with what happened a week ago last night, because now we've got, if there's any chance at all that we can nationalize the portal in some way, nationalize NIL in some way, get some help from D.C., this is as close to a unified situation that America is going to have with both the House, the Senate, and the presidential branch of governments all taken care of by one party. And by the way, I'd say the same thing if the Democrats had won out. I would. That's the only way you're going to get help. Otherwise, they're dealing with revenue sharing. They're dealing with how to pay the freight. Now we got fans coming after the networks because of the way the games are being presented and what time the games are being presented, which is pissing me off like you wouldn't believe.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, because I'm tired of television being the scapegoat for all fans. Most college football fans will tell you, well, I'm a big college football fan. The hell you are. You're a fan of your team. And by the way, we could take a test and I could expose you for what you are. Okay. All politics is local. All sports fanatics are local. And you got to have somebody that's looking out for the greater good of the sport, the totality of the sport. Don't tell me Big Noon sucks. And for you Ohio State fans that are going after Fox because all your games are on at noon, you're going to apologize for how we filled your coffers over these past few years and will for the future to make sure that you're going to be the most lucrative program in the country. I mean, they are saying blank Big Noon on game day last week.
Yeah, saw that.
Really, really. That's how you feel about it. We gotta find a way, okay, to explain that every part of media is not out to get you. I know you're accustomed to it in the news, but that ain't happening here. And I will speak solely from a broadcaster's point of view, not representing the company I work for now, but I work for ESPN. Okay, I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And they do a hell of a lot for our sport. What they've done with Game Day and turning that into an iconic show from what it was when I was working at the little cable that could is something I take great pride in. What CBS and NBC are doing okay, despite what happened to the Penn State whiteout game, is still good for college football. There are more games now for America to watch in college football than there ever have been. And there's never been a more starving public because the ratings everywhere are going through the roof. They are.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that we're the problem here all the time, because we're not. But the people that are in governance, and the bureaucracies that they represent need to understand that at least with the postseason, which you have total control of, you got to fix this. And on the field, you got to fix that. You got to remove the veils of impropriety.
Yeah. All right, David, what do you got?
I'm glad he touched on the
I know, that's
box.
why
I'm glad he touched on the big noon, because that was my question. What's the chat asking him?
Let's go to Mr. H. Appreciate it. Just said a hashtag Ask Timmy B. How mad does Sankey get if number 12 Georgia gets left out for a G5 team in the playoff?
Well, he shouldn't get mad because they don't deserve to be in now, in my view. I dropped them to 15. Okay?
Really?
They got boat raced. That was, this week they got boat raced. See, my poll is based on your performance right now. Now, I reserve judgment to put you back up there if you come back and play well at Tennessee.
Is that like a 1 week thing? Is that like the last 3 weeks thing?
I completely reform my poll every week. It's like a blank sheet. And
so where's Boise on your poll after only beating a bad Nevada team by 7?
Well, they didn't play particularly well, but you got to take this into consideration, Jake. It's November, and you're targeted, and you got a Heisman Trophy front runner, one of the front runners, without a doubt. And by the way, Nevada's not as bad as their record. They got a quarterback that I guarantee you is likely. I hope for the coach's sake, I hope for Choke's sake, that Brendan Lewis doesn't go in the portal. But if he did, he'd have a lot of takers. Kid's really athletic. He's really good. They put the ball on the ground, had a bad game. Their quarterback had a poor game, turned it over way too much, Boise State. But they still won the football game. Aren't they allowed to have a hiccup and still win? Alabama is allowed. Georgia's allowed. Texas is allowed. So we're not going to give Boise State the same opportunity. Hey, you've been proven to be a winner for a long, long time. Haven't they over the last 2 decades? And particularly with what they've done, I think it's 27, 28 consecutive years now they've had winning seasons. I mean, they can afford to stumble a little and still move up. I've got them at 10. And I think when you look at the rest of their schedule now, they've got to win them all because the meat of their schedule is behind them. But let me throw this out at you. Say that about Boise State. After this game with Georgia and Tennessee, Jake, after this game this week, tell me the big marquee game the SEC's got left in November.
I mean,
the Iron Bowl.
What is it?
I would say probably Texas
This year's
A&M.
Iron Bowl?
Texas,
Iron Bowl?
Yeah. Texas A&M.
Yeah, they got to play. That's what they got to play. They're rivals.
I mean, outside of that,
where's the game that rivals? Yeah. It's not there. Why?
No.
Because you got to play FCS teams the third week in November. Okay, the SEC's afforded that. Nobody questions them. The SEC's playing 8 conference games, not 9 like the others.
Well, after seeing the college football playoff reveal, though, if I'm the SEC, hell, I may go down to 7 regular season conference games if you're going to do that. If we're going to try and make the smart play.
By the way, if that does happen, and this will piss off fans even further, if Sankey and Tony Petitti, both of whom I have respect for, I will tell you, I have. I'm sure I've undermined and rankled Mr. Sankey a little more in recent years because I've made some statements that he didn't like.
Well, you say what you think. Actually, you don't kiss his ass.
Well,
like
I tell the truth. I say what I see, and I tell the truth, my truth.
Yeah,
that may not be the truth that they like, but I'm going to tell them.
Unburdened by what has been. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Where have I heard that? But,
hey, Tim.
But by the way, I will tell you, Tony Petitti, when I was blasting the BCS before he became my boss at CBS for 9 years as executive producer, he didn't like it when I was blasting the BCS to Kingdom Come. He authored the thing with Roy Kramer. And the reality is the BCS did make things better. And the reality also is college football playoff has made things better incrementally, slowly and incrementally. But now we're to a point, and particularly with all the revenue that's out there, you got to this is serious stuff. They got to get it right in moving forward. They got to get these dates right for the college football playoff. I know a lot of that was because they threw it together and started it 2 years earlier than they thought.
I think for the calendar in general, transfer portal window, all that stuff. But David, you had
the Heisman Trophy shouldn't be given out now until after the playoff.
I agree with that.
I agree with that. I like that too. Tim, I know you got to wrap, but quickly here, could you offer a little bit of clarification on what Matt Moscona came on our show yesterday and said when it comes to the tiebreakers for the SEC? I'm not sure how well you know him or not, but basically what Matt was saying, we could end up with a 5-team, something like a 5-team tie at 6-2 in the SEC, at which case that head-to-head, that first A bulletin, they just take all 5 teams at 6-2 and go to the next one. Is there any process of elimination with the head-to-head on those 5 teams saying, hey, well, this team beat that team beat that one. It's not a 5-team tie. It's a 3-team tie. And then we go to the next bulletin. Do you know the answer to that?
We're trying to figure that out, man.
No, I do not. But I will tell you this. If it came to that, I don't think that it will. But if it did, I'll make you a bet right now. If Vegas put up a betting line on it, I bet you I could pick the teams that got in.
You'd probably be right. Well, we're just like to Cone's point. To Cone's point, like I just do not have any idea what that answer would be, because basically what we're saying is, like David just said, if you ended up with those 5 teams, like where's the threshold of, all right, we just got to use the second tiebreaker for all 5? Is it just if there's 3 teams, like if you have Bama, Tennessee, and Georgia? Right? Are 3 of the 5 teams, then like A&M and Ole Miss. And Bama's beat Tennessee, or Tennessee's beat Bama, Georgia's beat Tennessee, and Bama's beat Georgia. Do you just say, you know what? Since they didn't play those other 2 teams and that's a circular filing squad, we've got to take all of those teams and then go to the next one.
I don't see that language on the SEC website.
I don't see it at all either.
No, nor do I. But let me say this to you, and I don't doubt Matt, because I think a lot of him. He's one of the few in Baton Rouge that's not, in his closet waving his pom-poms, purple
or just
and gold.
in his closet, in the closet in general.
Yeah, exactly. The problem I think LSU's had for going back to when I was a local broadcaster in the late 70s and early 80s is that everybody that's in the media there went to LSU, and they're all, they're fans. I get it. Same is true in Tuscaloosa. Same is true in Georgia for the most part. And that's what you see with local media. But Matt will say things that are sometimes unpopular with LSU people, so I respect him for that. But let me just say this as it relates to the conference right now. Okay, if I said to you, tell me who's playing the best college football in the SEC right now, who would it be?
God,
give me a quick answer.
Ole Miss.
Based off your slate of week by week, Ole Miss and Alabama.
Yeah. Ole Miss has got to be that team right now. Okay. And yet, until they beat Georgia, where was the proof in the W column?
Yeah.
Now, they outplayed LSU. We know they outplayed them. Okay. They should have won that game. They did not win that game. All right. But now they are playing better than anybody else. Do we penalize them because of the 2 losses? Sure we do. Is there a ceiling to how high they could go? Yeah, probably. But right now, they're playing better than anybody else. And when I look around and I see a team like Indiana that could potentially get screwed if they lose to Ohio State with only 1 loss, when I see a team like Army that might go out and give Notre Dame a great game, maybe not win, but not stay undefeated, they're not going to get in. They're not going to sniff it. Yeah. Okay. There are different rules for different brands. Okay. And that brand management is the central problem in college football.
Yeah.
Has been, will continue to be until we have transparency. Okay. So here's where politics and sports meet.
Yes.
During the post-election week. Okay. It is time whoever's in leadership of college football comes forward and says, we're fixing this. And by God, we're going to be transparent in admitting this.
Fine, we'll do it.
We'll be your
whoever those leaders are, and I think without question, the 2 front runners are Mr. Petiti and Mr. Sankey. It's on them to lead the way and bring some togetherness to those in power in college football. So we can all talk about how great all this is, because it is great. Where the sport's flourishing. I want to be positive. But these Tuesday night shows, get them off.
Yeah.
Get them off the air. It just allows for rancor in the discourse.
It's the Desperate Housewives of college football. That's
we need to fix all of that. We do.
Well, Timmy B, you're neither desperate nor a housewife, and that's why we love bringing you on this in the show. Where are you going to be this weekend, brother? And thanks again for stopping by. It's always great to talk to you, my friend.
You got it. Speaking of teams whose narratives have changed the last couple of weeks, Iowa State lost a couple of guys. And in their defensive secondary, it's really hurt them.
Yeah.
They're trying to get well against the Cincinnati team that's lost 2, but has played a lot better for Satterfield. Iowa State still got a shot. I mean, let's face it, a two-loss team could still win that league. So we'll see. And then a week from Saturday, they're going to send us Devin Gardner is going to get a home game. They're going to send us to Michigan to see if they can get bowl eligible. Cone. You know what happens to teams when they win a national title and they don't get bowl eligible the next year? Okay, so that's going to be an important game that they play.
It's called Auburn.
Yeah.
Look up Gene Chizik.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly. Timmy B, thanks, buddy. Love you. Tim Brando. Tim Brando. By the way, I'm going to say, David, if we did get put into some power form of college football where we could go in there and bust it up, we could be their Elon Musk, because technically kind of favor him a little bit. You could walk.
You could fix it, man.
Department of College Football Efficiency.
We're basically the guys.
We're
basically the guys from Holes.
Yeah, we are.
It's so in vogue right now.
We can fix that. But let's say you're getting your meat from a company that you don't trust, or maybe they're just not coming through for you anymore.
Gross.
I know. It's super good. Y'all said at the same time. That's pretty dope. Well, let me tell you about Good Ranchers. And that good may be in the name, but Fantastic Ranchers is what it should be called. That's my vote. Because there's something profoundly meaningful about gathering around a Thanksgiving table with people who matter the most with fantastic food. It's family, gratitude, and the traditions that bind us together. All right, but between the holiday chaos and questionable meat quality at grocery stores these days, preparing that perfect meal, you can get a little bit overwhelmed. This is where you need Good Ranchers to transform your Thanksgiving experience. Let them be your Optimus Prime. All right, they can take you to the promised land. They're not just delivering meat, they deliver peace of mind. Every cut comes from American farms and ranches, which means it comes from American families just like yours. They're free from antibiotics, free from hormones. We're talking about steakhouse quality meat that's individually vacuum sealed and perfectly trimmed. Guys, we have so much Good Ranchers food. I know I do. I know you do.
We had teriyaki chicken yesterday.
Reed made this stuffing, this chicken
it was delicious. I don't even know what it was.
With green beans and like cornbread stuffing in the crock pot. It was fantastic. And right now, Good Ranchers is offering something extraordinary, guys. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You better buckle up, buckaroos, because when you subscribe to any of their premium meat boxes, they'll add a free Thanksgiving ham to your first delivery.
Wow.
We're talking about a 10-pound spiral cut ham, y'all. That's $110 in this economy right now. All right, but you're getting it for the frizzle. So don't wait on this one. Visit GoodRanchers.com. Use code BOOSTER at checkout to claim your free Thanksgiving ham. Support American farmers. Skip the grocery store chaos and make this holiday truly special with Good Ranchers. That's GoodRanchers.com. Use that promo code BOOSTER, and you can go ham in more than one way.
There's no way Darby Lou lets me come home without one of those hams.
That's exactly
we got
right,
one last
Diesel.
year.
David, you tell me when you're ready to get to calls, man.
Okay, go to the chat here while they're loading the system.
All right, let's go to DD. What's up, man? He says, if Colorado beats BYU, does the Big 12 get 2 teams in?
Maybe.
In the Big 12 championships.
Correct.
That's got to be the only way, right? And it's got to be BYU now. It can't be like, because the way it was looking, you're like, man, is BYU and Iowa State going to be undefeated and play each other in the Big 12, and then they're both going to get in? That was best case scenario, I think, for Big 12, because it guarantees 2 teams, just like Miami and Clemson, right? Would be best case scenario for them to get 2 teams in if they went undefeated. That was their only loss. I'm just, God, after seeing the rankings, I don't know, man. Like, because I'm trying to find out what is the system for that one loss if you're an undefeated team. Like, we saw where Miami dropped from 3 to 9. All right, we saw where BYU moved up for not losing. What happens if Indiana loses to Ohio State? Does the drop depend on the style points?
Yes.
Or the score differential, right? Like, what if they lose by 10? Like, it's a good game and they lose by 10.
That's where 10's tough. It's like either lose by 40, or lose by 1. I will say right now, if BYU goes 12-0 and loses the Big 12 championship game to a 10-2 Colorado, that both teams will get in. They'll need help. So. They'll need as few 10-2 SEC teams as possible. And right now, I still think the Big Ten's getting 4 in, just the way that season. I just don't see a way that there aren't those 4 teams getting in. But I think they'd find a way to make room, and obviously Notre Dame complicates that.
Notre Dame is the fly in the ointment. Speaking of Timmy B, 1-855-236-3228.
All right, I got some callers here. Let's go to Sean in Missouri. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Sean, what's up, man?
I was just calling in I'm a lifelong Penn State fan. I've had family from up there, and I've been watching you guys' show for a while, and I appreciate everything you guys do because I respect you guys more than anybody on television.
Thank you, Sean.
Second of all, what do you guys think about these Penn State Nittany Lions, man? Because like me, I'm sitting there. I'm so upset watching us on that Ohio State game. It looks like it was our old team again.
I know.
Scared on the field, and I just don't understand what the hell happened there.
Sean, first off, buddy, we really appreciate you calling in and for watching the show, man. Again, I hope you know how much we love you guys and appreciate everybody that watches. It's the reason we're able to keep the lights on in here. When you're analyzing teams, we're still human beings, right? There's some programs I like. There's some programs I don't like. There's some programs I love, and there's some programs, honestly, that I hate. But I never let that get in the way of analysis. And I think we do a good job of that here between the three of us as much as humanly possible. I've always liked Penn State. Mm-hmm. There's been and I know the stuff in the past with Sandusky, that doesn't represent Penn State to me. I have always, from looking at the line, but Puzzlesny, like I was a huge Puzzlesny guy. Like I love that. I was raised by a linebacker. I'm a defensive guy, so like I have that. Here's what disappointed me the most. Not just that I picked Penn State to win that Ohio State game, is I've watched every Penn State game this year. Hell, including the bet you hit where they ended up covering against Kent State later, whatever we were watching early in the year. And this looked like a totally different team offensively to me, not just schematically, but from a confidence standpoint. Even going back to Sean Clifford, even going back to some of the guys they've had in the past, this just felt different on offense. And I keep asking myself, Sean, because I do think y'all that Andy Kotelnicki, he put a governor on the gas pedal in that game. I really think he did.
Him. I think he's
I do too. And that's the reason I picked y'all to win it. That's the reason that I think y'all can still right the ship. But it's either one of two things. And they're both wrong. Either one, you regressed in that game offensively because you were nervous and didn't trust yourself, which I'm sure Drew Aller felt from the play calling. You can tell, David, you know this better than anybody. Or the second thing is, y'all getting up 10 was the worst possible thing that could have happened to you.
Or you're just still not as good as they are.
And
that's not even any better. That's not even any better. Hey, guys in the control room, can you pull up graphic number 3, the playoff bracket, while Sean's on the line? Because, Sean, I just want to see here. Okay, so right now in this projected college football playoff bracket, Penn State at 6 would host Ole Miss, so this would be a rematch of last year or this earlier year's Peach Bowl. How would you feel about that matchup?
I would honestly hate it. That is a brutal-ass 11 seed.
Yeah, and Ole Miss is playing really good.
And I understand they come into Beaver Stadium, but personally, I was down at the Grove this weekend, actually, watching the Georgia Ole Miss game. And that Ole Miss, they're dogs. I think that Jackson Dart has kind of found that rhythm. Everybody gave him a hard time for going out on Halloween, and I think he kind of centered himself, and I think that Georgia win was big for them, and I would hate to see Ole Miss come in. I think that's a terrible 11 seed.
I always, and Conan, I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm always comparing this to like the seeding in NCAA basketball, because I know it doesn't go up from 1 to 16 like in each region, just goes to 12. But you know how many times when I'm sitting there filling out an NCAA tournament bracket, I look at the 6-11 matchup, and I'm like, oh, my God, that 11 seed is a nightmare to play against. Like, you have to do well to get a 6 seed. You have to have a pretty damn good year to get a 6 seed. But then that 11 seed, that's typically a team that got hot late. That's typically who that is, and that's who Ole Miss is when I look at that matchup.
Absolutely.
But, Sean, would it be a whiteout? They'd have to make it a whiteout, right? Regardless of what the rules are?
I don't know. If they put it at noon, like these noon kickoffs, that's the one thing I hate about us. Man, we'll never get
I was surprised Timmy B defended that, but I do realize where he's at.
I'm a little bit too. Hey, Sean, we appreciate it, man.
Thanks, buddy. Please call in again.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Keep calling in, man. I think you guys are going to make the playoff. All right, let's go to Jared in California. Jared, what's going on?
Jared, what's up?
Hello?
What's up, man?
How you doing? How you guys doing? Love the show. Love
Appreciate it,
everything you guys are doing for college football. My favorite show, probably besides Josh Pate.
We appreciate that. We know we're number one.
I can bench more than him.
Blaine can bench more than he is, and we got more hair, so it counts. It's our guy.
My first question is, I understand Ole Miss is getting all this like momentum coming off this Georgia win, just like we did. But honestly, do you guys see if, let's say, if Ole Miss and Alabama meet in the SEC championship, do you think that Ole Miss can hang with Alabama?
Jared, it's a great question, and it's funny. I mean, you could, and I know it was just one game with Ole Miss and Georgia and then Alabama and LSU. But you can make the case that Alabama and Ole Miss are two of the hottest teams in the league, if not the two hottest teams right now. So
Exactly.
Your question is, can Ole Miss hang with Bama? I think they can, and here's why. It's the same reason that they could hang with Georgia. It's the same reason that Tennessee was able to stop y'all, because athletically and physically on the defensive line, they have the rare combination of size and speed, right? You see some teams y'all go up against, like LSU had speed, but size-wise, y'all just mauled them up front. Now, y'all could play like Minnesota.
They were terrible on the run.
Yeah, like y'all road graded. But then you look at a team like Minnesota or something like that's got these big-ass defensive linemen, or like Rutgers. They're big and they're strong, but they're not quick enough. I think Ole Miss, the reason they've always been able to score on Alabama's defenses pretty much, even when Saban was there. But I think what separates this Ole Miss team is the defensive line. Jared, I would actually ask you, I would flip it around you. Do you think this Alabama defense could hang with the Ole Miss offense?
Two things. Honestly, I think our secondary is questionable with all the injuries that's happening. Everybody's banged up all around college football. That's understandable.
Yeah.
But our secondary in particular is pretty banged up with Devontae out. Well, Devontae's not out, but he's hurt. We got Q Robinson out. He's done. So
Rusall's out for the rest of the year too,
there,
right? Quay's out. Didn't he break his elbow or something? I know he's not secondary, but
yeah, I think he did. So that was another blow. Q that hurt so bad. But hopefully, like Keon Keeley, all these other guys like that's super good on college football can step up and honestly do something. And then my second question was, how do you guys like, because it seems like this water bottle throwing stuff on the field is like getting out of hand, honestly. And I'm tired of watching it on my TV, and I'm happy that Alabama fans aren't doing it.
Yeah.
But it just seems like it's a huge distraction and embarrassment to college
pun
football.
intended.
You should be banned. You should be banned.
Well, did you notice that now the fine for throwing stuff on the field, there wasn't as much stuff thrown on the field this time at LSU as compared to like Tennessee. You remember the Tennessee, I forgot if it was Bama game, whatever. But they got this fine the same amount as you get fined if you storm the field.
Yeah, but see, who gets fined? The school. Not the people who are doing it, right? So they're sort of immune from it. They're saying, well, we can throw stuff on the field, and it's the school that gets fined. I just wonder if the punishment's going to start to be a little bit
look, the thing about it is like we can find these people. Like there's cameras. Like there's enough to where if you throw stuff on the field, you should be banned from going to that stadium.
And I was wrong. I immediately thought that the easiest way to fix this would to be penalize the home team. Make it a 15-yard penalty on the home team that the fans are rooting for. But then I remember how smart fans are. If I'm going on, my team's going on the road. Let's say I'm an Auburn fan and we're going to play Ole Miss. I am dressing up in all my Ole Miss shit. I'm going in the stands and I'm getting 12 of us to throw stuff on the field at an important time to give them a 15-yard penalty. So I don't know if you can enforce that.
Appreciate it, Jared.
Great
Jared,
call,
great
man.
call, buddy. Thank you.
man. Roll Tide, brother. All right, let's go to Devil Doc in Indiana. Devil Doc,
what
what's
a
going
time.
on?
What a time.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing good, man.
All right. So I'm not. I want to say something about my hot take, but that's been a few weeks ago, and it looks like it may not actually be a hot
Is it the
take
Georgia one?
But yeah.
Yeah.
But my question, it's more of like a fundamental question. So with everything that's happened to Georgia the past couple weeks, does that mean that Carson Beck was way overrated, or does that mean that there's something else going on? Because to me, because I've watched the games, like obviously if I'm going to do a hot take like that, I'm going to back it up by watching them play. Like you guys talk about all the time, the eye test.
Yeah.
The problem I see is a lot of the decisions he's making to get those turnovers, it's not like some of them are, but I don't feel like the majority are like you're rushed because your offensive line can't hold people back. It's like you're just making horrible decisions. Mm-hmm. And so, like, at that point, is it just Carson Beck is just not near as good as we thought he was going to be? Or
David,
is there some other issue going on?
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I am shocked. He was my preseason Heisman Trophy winner. I think it's obviously multifaceted, and we've highlighted it on this show. Hey, you don't have Brock Bowers to throw the football to. You don't have Ladd McConkey. Those guys aren't getting quite the separation. You don't have Todd Monken calling plays, anymore. I get all that. But when you watch Carson Beck take a 5 and a hitch and bang a post route or bang a dig route, it looks as good as anyone in the country. It really does.
It's there.
Arm strength
It's in
is there, and you can see it. And look, I played with a lot of guys who were better as sophomores than they were as juniors, and they were better as juniors than they were as seniors. And sometimes you see guys regress, and guys who are projected number 1 overall picks aren't immune from that. I think maybe it's a combination of what we just said, and maybe he's a little bit distracted. It looks like that a little bit too.
Well, go ahead.
I think Carson Beck is now a 3rd-round pick.
Well, he is,
That's
but like
Carson Beck is.
what I was going to say was, and I am the first one to sit here, and we say this all the time, football's the ultimate team sport. You need help around you. Mm-hmm. We all understand that. But there are some guys that need it more than others. Mm-hmm. I'll give you some examples. Shadur Sanders, most pass-rushed guy in the world, even this year, and it's better. That's how bad it was last year. Yeah. I know he's got guys on the outside, but he can make up for that. You look at some of these other quarterbacks, some of the best ones. They're so good that they can make up for other people's deficiencies. I think Carson Beck is a good quarterback, but he's not elite enough to make up for the deficiencies that Georgia has after losing who they've
good
lost.
Quarterbacks do what? They elevate the play of the guys around him. Shadur Sanders is elevating the play of the guys around him. Carson Beck is not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, even Jalen Milroe to an extent, guys. I mean, look what he did against LSU.
Appreciate it, Devil Doc.
Great call, man.
All right, let's go to Nolan in Arizona. Nolan, what's on your mind?
What's going on, guys?
What's up, buddy?
Oh, not much. It's a Wednesday. It's hump day. I'm feeling good today.
There we go. Halfway there, baby.
Hump day, baby. Hey, speaking of water bottles, you guys see that there's I don't know if it was a student. It just said an 18-year-old got arrested from Utah for throwing a water bottle at one of the cheer coaches for BYU.
Really? Good. You're aiming for the cheer coaches?
Good. How soft do you have to be?
Charged for a misdemeanor assault, I think is what it's.
No. Wait, hold on. What was it, a full water bottle, and where was it thrown from? Because if it's full and it's thrown from a certain
that is now a weapon
spot, that could really do some damage.
Right. So the one that the video that I saw, I think it was open, but I think it was like partially full. So they threw it and water was coming out, and then it hit the lady and she fell down.
You're throwing stuff at girls, number one, where I'm from. That gets you
lost consciousness.
Yeah, according to her, she lost consciousness for a second, knocked her out. But
he wouldn't make it out of the stadium, brother. Where I'm from, and that's Auburn, Alabama, he wouldn't make it down to.
Even if it was an Auburn guy that did it.
Yeah.
For real. Okay, I mean, I'm a BYU fan. I'm very, very biased when it comes to this. But in my opinion, Utah fans got to be some of the dirtiest in the whole country. I mean, that's not even.
Well, I've got to see it.
I wouldn't bump one fan in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, okay, my real question today is, I mean, I was in the chat last week, and I asked if BYU is even able to win a national championship. I'm going to ask you guys, how good is BYU? Because, I mean, I'm used to, the the BYU that goes 8-4, bowl eligible. Sometimes, we don't even make a bowl. But how good is BYU? Like, are we the real deal this year? I know we're not elite in anything. We're just kind of good at everything.
You hit it. You right there. Right there. Say what you just said at the end of that.
We're not elite at anything, but we're just kind of good at everything.
That's where, to me, and look, that's always that's great to have. But typically we have years where somebody's elite in 2 out of the 3. Very rarely 3 out of the 3, but most time they're elite in 2 out of 3. I think you could say Oregon right now is probably elite in 2 out of the 3. It looks like, but you can make an argument against it. I don't think there's anybody else out there. So I think this type of team with BYU has a better chance than they would in past years, right? When there were teams that were elite in all 3. But I just, because I think Indiana's kind of the same way. I don't think Indiana's amazing at one thing. They're just really, really good at everything. I think that weighs more this year, but it doesn't weigh enough to win a national championship. But if Retzlaff can just keep not turning the ball over, and you guys are obviously a team of destiny, like I said, I'm considering hopping in the church transfer portal after last week. But
you're welcome, brother. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think you guys have a ton to be proud of. I don't think BYU would. I don't think it'd be a bad bet.
Hey, Ted Lasso, baby.
Yeah.
Believe that sign. Thank you, Nolan. All right. Appreciate it, man. Last caller of the day. Let's go to Caleb in Twin Lake, Michigan. What's up, Caleb?
Hey, fellas. I was calling in asking about the first round of the playoffs and if it would be more beneficial if you're a northern team versus a southern team.
Mm-hmm.
Bring up that graphic.
Yeah. Can we bring the format back up that's got the road game? There's something to this, boy.
Yeah, there really is.
Like, if you've ever played, the other one that has the seating.
And keep in mind, this will be like December 19th and 20th, first round.
And do we know yet how much of an effect it's had on, like, USC and UCLA? Like,
not yet. They've been playing in September and October,
yeah, so
brother.
we don't
Wait
really
till the
know
middle
yet.
of December. That would be Indiana right there hosting Alabama. That would be,
buddy, it's cold.
That would be Penn State, like we said, in a rematch of the Peach Bowl, hosting Ole Miss.
That'd be cold.
And a whiteout probably.
Snow on the ground.
Beaver Stadium. That'd be awesome.
The matches would be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would. It has a drastic effect. I will say, though, I never got an answer between if you're 2 northern teams and you're used to cold weather and you're playing against each other, do you think it's advantage offense or defense? Is it? I know a lot of people say, well, just like when it's raining, the offense knows where they're going. The defense doesn't know where they're going. So therefore, it's a built-in advantage. I don't know if I buy it. I think it's circumstantially.
Well, you also have to handle the football.
Yeah,
and that's tough in the rain. It's hard to handle the football in rain. That's why it's so crucial for Notre Dame. Obviously, not only do they have to win out to make the playoff, at least we think, but play their way into that home field advantage where they could host in South Bend.
Yeah,
that'd be huge.
Good point.
Appreciate it, Caleb.
Great call, Caleb, great call. Enjoy both those legs. They're twins. Basil. All right, let's get to some bets. Scott Leffler came through for the kid.
Oh, he did, man.
Came through for the kid last night.
Oh, left.
Betting Maction. I've never done crack before, but I feel like it's close to the same thing. That's why they call it craction. So give me Northern Illinois, Akron, under 45. Yes, the same Northern Illinois that beat Notre Dame, but the same Northern Illinois that lost to Buffalo. And no, not the Bills. There's actually a college called Buffalo. Then Kent State, Miami, Ohio. Over, baby. 47.5, because I think Kent State can score 10, but they'll damn sure give up 50, David.
Oh, so you're going to take the over?
I'm going to take the over in Kent State, Miami, Ohio. Okay. I'm going to take the under in Northern Illinois.
All right, I'm going straight NFL tonight. Let's go Washington plus 3.5, and that's minus 110. They're playing Philly. And then I'm going to take Washington and Philly over 48.5, minus 112. Let's hope we get more points than we did in the Dolphins-Rams game.
I love it. Just anybody other than Jalen Hurts, and I'm absolutely cool with it. All right, not a great day yesterday, but it's already in the past. We forgot about it. Give me Eastern Michigan plus 11.5. I like that 11.5 number, minus 115. Give me the Zips in Akron plus 14.5 on the road. Somewhat believe, baby.
What is A. Scott? He's going to ride with the Eastern Michigan Lightning plus 12 at minus 110. Then, going against me. Kent State, Miami, Ohio, under 47.5. Only one can be right.
All right, let's get to these donations. If you donate today, guys, we really appreciate it. Let's go to a $5 donation from CD. What's up, man? He says, I agree we need Nico, but the optimist in me thinks that Gaston kid wasn't half bad last week. With our defense, we only need a few touchdowns.
I think they scored 13 points with him in the second half.
Yeah, I just, again, and you never know, that's the beauty of it. Oh, Tennessee scored how many points?
I think they were at 20 at the end of the first half. That's when Nico went out, and they won 33-14.
And against teams that because the difference in Tennessee and Mississippi State was pretty big. But when you've played teams where it's closer, I mean, to think you've scored one touchdown in the first half, the past four. The start of this game is so huge for Tennessee to set the tone of it, and really more defensively than offensively, I think. Because if Tennessee's going to win, if this gets above 21 points, I don't think they're going to win. I don't think, and I know that they haven't given up 20 points all year. I get that Georgia's, but points don't just come from your offense. Will this turn into Georgia doesn't trust theirs? Tennessee's got a backup quarterback and they don't trust theirs. Is it a one-turnover game? Which, to me, if you're Tennessee and that's the way it goes, that's not the worst thing that could happen. Not at all.
Let's go to a $2 donation from Wicked Brew. What's up, man? He says, can we just bring back the BCS computers yet?
Well, why don't... Well, can I...
I like this. I like arguing about it.
No, it is fun. It is fun to argue about. And I think sometimes people think, we argue on here and then the minute we're after, we're like, man, this is I can see what you're saying. But when I look at college basketball, and that's the only reference I have for this. It's like they have Ken Pom. Remember RPI? It's just like all of these calculations. And even Timmy B brought up, like, if there's certain metrics you need to hit to be able to get in, like that makes sense to me. But even if you had rules that I disagreed with, that you put them out there and you said, this is what we're following, we're going to look at ticket sale money. We're going to look at the, amount of travel this and then strength of schedule, whatever. And I was like, that's bullshit. That shouldn't happen, whatever. At least there would be rules. And that's where I think I have a problem with this. And maybe it's because I've been so beaten the head with it because of NIL and the transfer portal and eligibility, where there are no rules anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm whiplash from it.
Let's go. $2 donation from Nathan. Appreciate it, Nathan. He says, Crain and Co. for College Football Playoff Committee 2024.
We need to put together a cabinet like they do in politics. Like, who would be our
call on the Avengers,
our czar of NIL?
Yeah. Got to call on the Avengers. Let's go to a $5 donation from Sir. Appreciate you, Sir. Recount of Blaine, even better. It's been 7 years, not 6. Again, I really did appreciate that, man. You're amazing. November is Men's Mental Health Month, so check on the men in your life. I know they don't like to talk about it, but really sit down and talk to them because it matters. Let's go to a $10 donation from Timothy. Thank you, Timmy. Bama ranks higher than Vols in 22. NCAA investigates Vols when we get Nico. Now it looks like we'll be left out of the playoffs if we lose Saturday. Is it clear to those outside our fan base that we are hated?
I don't think you're going to be left out if you go 10-2. I don't. I still don't.
Not at all. David, your thoughts? Tennessee in the playoff at 10-2?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. But again, how many are there? Because like we said, you and I ran the math only 2 weeks ago. It's changed a little bit since then, but we only ran it for teams that could finish 10-2 or better. Like we had built in Alabama and LSU, someone has to lose. That number was 21 when we included Notre Dame and we included the group of 5 teams. That number is going to come down. It already has come down since we've done that, but it's not going to half itself. Mm-hmm. So some 10-2 teams I think are going to get left out.
Went back and looked at my SEC predictions. I had 4 teams going 10-2. Let's go to a $5 donation from James. Appreciate it, James. Big win for Auburn versus Houston last weekend. So refreshing to see sports teams to close out a game. #finally.
Well, from the Auburn standpoint, it felt good to feel good again. After what's true. Like, it's nice to be on the winning side. Thank you, Bruce Pearl.
$2 donation from 702 to Fosi. Appreciate it, brother. Bold prediction, 1-loss Notre Dame won't make the college football playoff.
How much you want to bet on that? I will bet a lot of money on that, my friend. Believe me, they want Notre Dame in there.
$5 donation from Jimmy. Timmy, what's up, man? He says, Alabama is the best football team in college, and you're going to see that in the playoffs.
When they play like they do the other day, man.
Well, it's just like, can they get away with just running Jalen Monroe the way they did against LSU, against like Ohio State? That ain't. Alabama's offensive line's good. This isn't like the most dominant of it. It was smart. I'd have kept doing it. Nick Sheridan was unbelievably smart to keep doing it. You're going to be able to get away with it against Mercer. Probably going to be able to get away with it against Auburn. But the minute you get in there and you face like an Ole Miss or somebody, and they can stop that, that's when it gets interesting.
$5 donation from Brewer HYDR. Josh Pate, when I'm college football commissioner, the entire CFP rankings and selection process will be broadcasted like a Senate hearing.
Yeah, Drew Butler said that.
That was Brewer HYDR, and that was Josh Pate, or whoever Jake just said. $10 donation.
Yeah, Drew Butler was the first person I heard say that.
As a Buckeye fan who works until 4 p.m. on Saturday, I like to see a game every now and then. They don't have to be primetime every week, but is a 3:30 start too much to ask?
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, 11 isn't, obviously 11 o'clock isn't primetime. 12 o'clock is not primetime. The two best slots are 6:30 which is 7:30 Eastern, so I'm going off Central Time, 6:30 Central and 2:30 Central, right? With the other ones, we always looked at those like appetizers growing up. That was what Jefferson Pilot Sports was on. You're like, all right, these are kind of the games that, it could be an upset, something.
But that's what Joel Klott's point was. He was like, before Big Noon kickoff, we created that space for another huge game, which as someone who has to cover the sport professionally now, I love it that one of the mega matchups is at noon or 11 our time.
And you're used
because
to
they're not all on top of each other. But I completely agree. When Penn State and the Buckeyes play, can that not be a night game? I know that one specific example, Fox had to think about the World Series. But even that, man, if you love college football, I don't care about the World Series being head-to-head.
More people probably watch that football
I want to watch Penn State play at night.
That's exactly right.
Go to a $5 donation from C. Johns. He says, fellas, do you pick Tennessee or Alabama at 10-2? One is out, and why?
Tennessee beat them straight up.
You got to have the head-to-head, man.
Yeah, easy answer.
All right, last donation of the day, a $3 donation from Eddie. Appreciate it, man. Happy birthday, Laura B. Laura, happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Laura.
All right, everyone who donated today, thank you so much. Really means a lot. Let's get to this poll. Can Tennessee win without Nico? Yes or no?
I'm going to say they said yes. And check this out, David. 51%.
51? Can they win? Can Tennessee win this weekend without Nico? They said no. I'll say yes, but they said no 55%.
No 62%. Wow. Yes 38%.
All right. Appreciate everybody in there. Shout out to Black Rifle Coffee, Good Ranchers, Tim Brando, one of the best coming on. Make sure you catch us tomorrow. Got a great show for you. Got a really cool guest picker coming up this week. Let's just say we didn't have to wrestle with this one, but he used to a lot. And the chances of me not enjoying all the sports going on tonight and trying to hit another big basketball parlay. We're going.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
God, I tried to do it. Gone. God, that would have been so dope.
That would have been your Odell moment.
That would have been my Odell moment. That would have been my Odell moment.
Are you going 20 legs again tonight?
Yeah, I am. Got more legs than a spider museum.